wants to tame me. You can't catch me on the run, cause I'm gone, yeah. I blaze trails, set fire to what's behind me. No, I'm never looking back, I'm on the run. I could only ever be what I'm made to be. It feels good when I'm living on the edge. Watch me now, roll like thunder, gonna sacred ground. Can't stop me now, I don't give up and I won't back down. I'm a force of nature, can't be contained. I got lightning running all through my veins. Watch me now, watch me now.
Hi, I'm Wyatt Milam. I'm from Canova, West Virginia. When I'm back home, you'll find me at my local Par-Mar store.
We have that gold and blue pride at your local Par-Mar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Par-Mar app and sign up for the Par-Mar rewards card. Food, gas, groceries, and more. We are gold and blue proud, and we are Par-Mar stores.
If there's not a Par-Mar store near you now, there will be soon.
Law offices of Mark Plants and Kevin Davis. First line of defense. Buzzballs, ready-to-drink cocktails. Number one single-serve premix brand in the U.S. Buzzballs, have a ball. And hello and welcome today to the WolfMan's Call. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's Thursday. It's game week, second week of the season. We got the Duquesne Dukes coming up, and I have a special guest here I'll bring on in just a minute. But what a great time this is, knowing that the season is going. We've been waiting weeks and weeks, talking in the summer, talking about Penn State. Penn State's over, man. It's over. It's time to go ahead and move on. And the Mountaineers are 0-1, and they're not going to have a victory until they go ahead and win one. So right now, they're getting ready. They have to compete against the Duquesne Dukes, who, under Jerry Schmidt, the coach, in 19 seasons as a head coach, he has 15 game or winning seasons. He went undefeated 2021-22. I mean, this is not a joke, all right? This is not an FCS team from Delaware State. This is a team that can hurt you if you don't go ahead and put it together. So with that all being said, I want to go ahead and do one thing first, and that is to go ahead and we'll talk about our buddy Mike Dunlap, who Mike, of course, went out there and he's back in the hospital. He just got his kidney. The kidney was starting to reject. They saved it, and he needs the heart thing. And we have the GoFundMe, and we have the PayPal.com. It's at polkadot66@gmail.com. If you can give, I know Coach Don Nealon is getting involved. Man, I tell you, what a great dude he is. Helps everybody out. Hometown hero, all that crazy stuff. It's Mikey D, man. If you can help out, go ahead. PayPal.com at polkadot66@gmail.com. Now, as I told you, we have a special guest. His name is Tad Maurey. He's the color analyst for the Duquesne Dukes, and he's right here. Hey, Tad, how are you, sir?
Hey, Wolfman, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, doing wonderful. We got some work to cut out here, man, and figure out what's going on. The Duquesne Dukes up there in Pittsburgh, very successful team. I just said Jerry Schmidt. You guys beat the was it the Fighting Scots? The Edinburgh place?
Yeah, the Fighting Scots of Edinburgh.
Yeah, all right, man. I live in Buffalo, or grew up there, so we're driving all the time past Edinburgh, and I'm very familiar with that. But so Duquesne, my whole family. Now, you and Alex work the Duquesne staff, and my nephew CJ Craig Jr. Craig's boy is he your engineer? What is he?
That is correct. Yeah, Alex is the play-by-play. He's in his 29th season.
Ooh.
I'm in my 18th as the color analyst, and your nephew CJ's in his first as our engineer, but he worked with us in basketball last year, so it's his second year at iHeart.
All right. Well, I think my nephew's really cool, really super special. So that's awesome. And he's a better person than my brother Craig. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, brother. All right. Anyways, let's go ahead and let's talk about this. Let's talk about Coach, Jerry Schmidt, because he does have such a successful track record. When you look at it, he's going to have a team that's going to be competitive, that's detailed, that, you just don't win 15 out of 19 seasons. You don't go undefeated 2 years ago. You got guys that are making it into camps in the NFL. I mean, you got a program going on at Duquesne now.
Yeah, we really do, Wolfman. And you mentioned players in camps. Actually, Christian Kuntz, who was an FCS All-American linebacker for the Dukes quite a few years ago. He's the long snapper for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been with them for about 3 or 4 years now. So he gets a paycheck on Sundays. He plays on Sundays, gets a helmet. So Duquesne has had their fair share of some players make the NFL. Probably their most known player would be Lee Bodden, who was a cornerback, played at Detroit, Cleveland, and New England. He played for about 8 or 9 seasons in the NFL. So they have made some rosters, but Lee Bodden's the one that really stayed the most from a Duquesne alum.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I do actually remember him as a player. And tell me about Coach Jerry Schmidt. What's he like? What's he tell his team? Who are the Dukes when he talks to them?
You know what? As you said, Wolfman, he's entering his 19th year. His first go-around at Duquesne was under Coach Greg Gattuso, who is now at the University of Albany, and also was a coach at Pitt for a while after he left Duquesne. But, Coach Schmidt went to Westminster. He was an offensive lineman, so he's an offensive guy. He was the offensive coordinator at Duquesne before being the head coach, but he's been here 19 years. A great offensive mind. He's a hard-nosed coach, but he's pretty laid back. You could say he's a player's coach. The players will run through a wall for him. He's been here 19 years, and I think he loves it more this year than he did his first, Wolfman.
Yeah, his record at Duquesne as a head coach, 114-78. NEC record 60-40. And, you got 2 FCF playoff appearances. I mean, he's getting it done there. And, Pitt, a lot of times, you sit there, Pitt, and then you got the Steelers and Penguins and the Pirates, and, you get down to Duquesne and stuff. But you guys have really been successful, and some people just have not realized that because of all the other teams that are professional. And then you got the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a ton of success at Duquesne. He's the all-time winningest coach here at Duquesne. He's also won the NEC conference, which Duquesne didn't become into until about 2006, 7, or 8. I'm trying to think right now, but they've won 5 NEC championships. Yeah. Like you said, they've made it to the FCS playoffs twice, and they've won a game back in 2018. They beat Towson before losing to South Dakota State. So I believe they're the only NEC team to ever win a game in the FCS playoffs, but they've had tremendous success. And lately they've been really, he believes in playing up. The kids like the challenge of playing FBS schools. Last year, we opened the season in Tallahassee against Florida State. We also played Hawaii. This year, we have obviously West Virginia, and next week we have Coastal Carolina. Yeah. 2 years ago, we had TCU, and then we had Ohio University, who we beat out in Athens, Ohio, 28-26. So they like playing up. They like the challenge of playing FBS schools.
Yeah, I see that. And I have a buddy that coaches up there in Ohio. I'm not going to say his name just to piss him off. But, yeah, they did. You guys took it to him. And that's really impressive when you can do that and you can play up. And that means that your players believe in yourself or your coach themselves, and they enjoy playing the game. So that being said, man, let's go ahead and let's pop this out here. And here's the 2 deep chart. Can you see that?
I see it.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start out now. The Fighting Scots look like they had a rough days starting out. Turned the ball over 4 times, but I mean, there's a havoc going for these guys. So, talk to us about the offense. Talk to us about Darius Brandon, quarterback, and what we can expect.
Well, you broke up a little bit on me, Wolfman, but let me just take it. I think I have an idea what you were asking. Darius Prentes comes back as the quarterback for the Dukes. He's in his 3rd year at Duquesne. 2 years ago, Joe Mishler was their starting quarterback. He blew out his knee in the opening game against TCU. Parentes was under center the rest of the year and really had himself a really nice year. He's a dual threat quarterback. But last year he got beat out by Mishler when Mishler came back. They both played, and I got to say both were inconsistent. So this is his 3rd year back. He's the starter, the unquestioned starter. They also have a backup, a graduate transfer from Fresno State, Matt Robinson, who got in the game the other day. But Parentes had a nice debut against Edinboro. Like I said, he's a dual threat quarterback, so he can do as much with his legs as he can do with his arms. They do have a nice left side of their offensive line, Wolfman. Oliver, Fala, and Durundo return as starters for the Dukes. The right side of the line, a little bit more inexperienced. And quite honestly, their skill position was all inexperienced coming into this year because their leading receiver transferred to Georgia Tech and their leading running back transferred to Liberty. So they were bringing in, not necessarily bringing in all new guys, but a lot of the guys that were going to be getting a lot of quality time this year, a lot of starters were inexperienced. And boy, they showed really, really well against Edinboro. Of course, it's going to be a huge step up in class this weekend, but so far you got to like what you saw from the offensive side of the ball from the Duquesne Dukes.
Yeah, yet Taj Butts had 100+ yards rushing. You had 234 yards rushing on the day. Tell us about this offense. What's the style that we're going to see? How are they going to attack the Mountaineers?
Well, you mentioned Taj Butts. He's a transfer from Missouri. So Duquesne does have a lot of FBS transfers on this football team. As far as their offense, they run a lot of 11 personnel, Wolfman. They're gonna come out with 3 receiver sets with the 1 tight end. They run primarily in shotgun with a running back sidecar either to the left or the right. So I mean that's pretty much what they like to do. They get a good push from their offensive line. They've had a great offensive line over the years at Duquesne, and wide receivers always been a position that they just seem to churn them out, just like the Steelers, like your shirt says there. I don't know what the Steelers, I don't know what it is, but they certainly know how to pick up wide receivers and develop them, and so does Duquesne. So Duquesne can get it done. I like the balance that they had on Saturday, Wolfman. They ran for about 220 yards. They only threw it Parentes went 7 for 13 for 2 touchdowns. He was pulled in the 3rd quarter. Actually, he was pulled early in the 3rd quarter. But I like the balance that they showed, but it's going to be interesting for me. They got to continue to have that balance if they have any chance of winning in Morgantown. The offensive line has to get a good push, and I know the West Virginia front 7 is quite impressive because they held quite a duo of Penn State running backs in check up at Happy Valley. So it's going to be tough sledding for the Dukes to run the ball against the Mountaineers, I got to believe.
Yeah, are they run first? Are they pass first? Are they just balanced? What do they like to do?
Well, I think it's balanced, Wolfman, but I think this year, I think it's run the ball to set up the pass, quite honestly.
All right.
I mean, they came out thrown against Edinboro, but I'm talking against when we step up in class. You got to win the trenches in football, and I think you're gonna have to do that, obviously, against West Virginia. So I think they're gonna want to line up and try to establish that run to set up the pass against the Mountaineers.
When you talk about it, you say that Parentes is a run dual threat quarterback. Are they going ahead? Are they going to do some read zones? Are they going to do some isolating with the quarterback, adding to the box?
Definitely, they'll do some RPOs. They like to get him rolling out. So yeah, they'll try to get him in space. I mean, he's not. Don't get me wrong. He's not like a Caleb Williams necessarily at USC or something like that. I mean, he can run, but I think he'd rather throw. But he is a dual threat. He's somebody that you certainly have to focus on being able to run the football.
And I'm sure he can keep the play moving and extending it with his legs. Certainly is what I get the impression from you. So now let's go ahead. Let's flip it over to the defense now. And it looks to me, 5 turnovers. They had, 6 sacks? I mean, it was a total dominance on the defensive side. But is that what they're about, takeaways?
It really is, Wolfman, and that's what they've been about year in and year out. In fact, last year was the first time that they had a losing record in about 10 years. And last year was the year that actually they turned the ball over way more than they forced. They had 22 turnovers last year, and 17 of them were interceptions from the quarterback position. And they really were a very poorly penalized team last year, which is completely a 180 of what this team usually is year in and year out under Coach Schmidt. This is a team that forces a lot of turnovers and doesn't get penalized at all or very often. So to answer your question, the defense, looking at this too deep on defense, this was the unit that had the more experience coming back into the season. They had 6 starters return, not to mention a couple that started a couple years ago that had season-ending injuries last year. They play a 3-4-4, but they'll run a lot of nickel defenses. Lopez, Ackerman, and Kurzinger, the 3 up front, they're all 3 returners from last year. They have smaller linebackers, but boy, they're very athletic, and probably their secondary is very, very experienced and very talented as well. Aiden Garnes, you see there, number 8, the cornerback. He's the player that had the pick 6, the second play of the game. I do need to give him a shout out, though. This young man was a bone marrow donor in the offseason to help save a young woman's life. So this is a young man. He's a redshirt sophomore. Just the kind of character and young men that Coach Schmidt likes to have on his team. And nothing, you can't say anything more about the gesture and the selflessness of that young man donating bone marrow to a young woman. So, yeah. But anyway, the defense is very experienced and very talented.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. I did watch the Florida State game as well last year, and that Ryan Lopez, 5, seems like he's very, very active. Now, that is, I mean, you got a lot of graduates there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you got 5 or 6 graduates there. That is an experienced team, which you have to count on when you have to go play up into another division like West Virginia. So are these going to be the backbone guys of the team?
Yeah, you really, I mean, obviously they've had experience going on the road playing FBS schools. Certainly, you can't get any better than going on the road and playing at Florida State last year. So these young men, this team is experienced about going on the road in a hostile FBS environment in front of 70, 80,000 people, whatever the case may be, and keeping their poise, keeping their composure. I mean, they may not win the game, they may make mistakes, but I think the experience, like you said, these graduate experience, they may not have a lot of experience playing together, some of them, because they may be transfers or something,
right.
Not necessarily on defense, but on offense. But they can at least keep the youngsters' minds in the right place in such a hostile environment.
I looked at the WVU Penn State game last week. I thought, the Mountaineers went out there, and they're a fairly young team too as well. And I thought the moment wasn't too big for them. I was concerned they'd be distracted, but it really did not happen. And I think that's the team that you're going to have to need to do that. How are you going to beat the Mountaineers if you can?
Boy, oh boy, I'll tell you what, that's going to be a tough one, Wolfman. I think it all starts. I'll put it to you straight. This defense last year struggled to stop the run. Now they're much improved. But still, I mean, playing Edinburgh and then playing C.J. Donaldson, no offense to Edinburgh, of course, but it's certainly a step up in class. I mean, C.J. Donaldson is a preseason first team all Big 12, is he not, at running back? So, I think that's where it starts. In the trenches, Wolfman. Defensively, Duquesne has to stop the run and put this game on the right arm of Garrett Green, I believe, to have success. And then offensively, like I said, it's a tremendous front seven, I believe, that you guys have down there. So I think the offensive line at least has to neutralize that front seven at best to have success. They have to give Parentes time, and they have to give the combination of Taj Butts and Jamario Clements some holes to run through. I think I'll put it to you straight, Wolfman. Whichever offense becomes one-dimensional, I think loses his football game.
All right. I think that when I was looking, of course, at the Dukes, I think that they had to do what I said that the Mountaineers should do last week, and that is to move that quarterback around in the pocket. Don't let him sit there and tee off on any second and long, third and long situations. First down is key, by the way, and when you're trying to play up, to me, it's key. And you have to go ahead, and you have to set.
Yeah, and I think that's key, and that's exactly what the Duquesne defense did last week to Edinburgh quarterback Matt Carlisle. They made him uncomfortable pretty much throughout the day. I mean, as you said, they had 6 sacks, 5 turnovers, but even when they weren't getting sacks or committing turnovers, when they were rushing him, they were getting hits on him. He was thinking about that pass rush instead of his progressions down the field, and that's a win for the defense. And that's exactly what Duquesne's offense is going to have to do. They're going to have to move Parentes around to buy him time and stay away from that pass rush that's going to get that Duquesne's offensive line is going to have trouble with. I mean, your front seven really showed themselves well, I thought, in that game at State College against a tremendous team in Penn State. So obviously Duquesne, they're going to have to play the near perfect game to win this. They need to try to turn you guys over just like they did in Edinburgh, and they need to play a flawless game on offense and not turn the ball over, and defensively not give up the big play, I think.
I think you're right. Before we let you cut out here, special teams, what's going on with your specialists? How good are they? And I think you got experience there.
Yeah, we bring everybody back kicking-wise. Joey Corrado, was our punter, and Brian Brusdowitz is our kicker. They both return. Michael Baraducci, again, as well as a punter. They all return. All the specialists return for Duquesne. So they have one of the most experienced kicking units in FCS football. So that's a feather in their cap as well. That the kicking unit's pretty good.
Yeah. Hey, Ted, I forgot to ask you, how much do they like the blitz? Do you like the blitz? What kind of coverage you put behind them?
Well, you know what? They like to play a lot of man-to-man. They'll play some cover 3. They'll play some cover 2. But they don't blitz very often, Wolfman. To be honest with you, they get home. They get home pretty well with when it's third down. They'll rush. They usually rush 3 or 4 on every play, but 5 or 6 very rarely. They think they can get home with a front 4. Usually, when it's second and long, third and long, they'll bring a package in that they're rushing 4 instead of just the 3-down lineman that they start with. But they feel that they can get home with just 4. Now, if that changes, maybe that changes this week against the offensive line of West Virginia. Maybe they feel they got to get there and put the pressure on. We'll see. Maybe we'll see some run blitz action as well. I don't know, but I know one thing. They need to stop the running game, that dual threat between C.J. Donaldson and Garrett Green, to have any success this Saturday night.
Yeah, okay. Well, listen, Tad, man, that's some great information. I really appreciate it. And coming on the show here, and you know what? Turnovers never hurt. You know what I mean? Turnovers never hurt. And if the Mountaineers, they got to stay clean, because I'm telling you, I really believe that this Duke team, they're dangerous, and they're not.
You see it every year, Wolfman. You see FBS teams playing down to FCS, playing down and playing some FCS schools, and there's always like 3 or 4 each year that knock somebody off. So does Duquesne have it? I mean, is it going to be tough? Sure, but they have a puncher's chance.
No, they sure do, and I'm not even sure that West Virginia yet knows exactly who they are for how they're going to operate offensively. Even defensively, I think they're still trying to figure it out. I think they went ahead and played hard against Penn State, but even still, I think they still have to determine a little bit more of who they want to be and where they're headed.
And maybe that could benefit Duquesne, playing them this early in the season before West Virginia's defensive and offensive units have a chance to gel and be cohesive. Like I told you with our offense, our offensive line, we had two starters coming back. The third one was injured last game, but he's going to be back. But still, that cohesion that you have to have, you have no idea how long it's going to take an offensive line to gel and work as one. And Duquesne had success with that in the first game. Granted, that was against Edinburgh, but boy, we go up in class, and we're going to see what we're made of this Saturday. That's for sure.
All right. Well, hey, man, the best of luck to everybody. Everybody stays safe and safe travels on your way down and on your way back. Hey, Tad, thank you so much.
All right, Wolfman. And again, we'll be working with your nephew this week, as always. So we enjoy working with him. And thank you very much for having me on. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Our honor. Thanks so much, Dad. Have a good
All right.
day.
Take care now.
Yep. Bye. All right. Well, Tad Maury. Now but he's been with them, the Dukes, for 18 years. And Alex, the play-by-play guy, is like 29 years. So I mean, the guys who know what the program's about. They've been through it. They've seen it. You talk about anything can happen on a given day. All we have to do is go back to Michigan and Appy State. We all know that. And I know I can see down here at Tony Altimore, I know he's smiling at that one because anything can happen on any given day. So let's go ahead. Let's bring in my guy, Tony Altimore, who he's just gonna give you more information than I ever could. And all right, let's just do it. Hey, what's up, Tony?
Hey, all right, now the pressure's on. I don't know if I can deliver.
I tell you what, I don't think you have any problems with that, man.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Hey, did you get a chance to hear Tad there?
I just caught the end of it. I just signed on a second ago. I'm excited to see what you guys do against Duquesne.
Well, I tell you what, I really think that the Mountaineers are finding themselves. Garrett Green. What are they going to do with him? You're going to have to do some things. We're talking with Tad about what they're going to have to do against WVU is what I wanted WVU to do against Penn State, and that's roll the quarterback out, move the pocket around, maybe do, a little bit of conflict there between a run-pass option, all that stuff there. I think WVU could do a lot better instead of just dropping straight back with a 5'11" quarterback. That's going to have a hard time seeing. I mean, I really believe that. So, again, I think we're going to see what the Dukes are going to try to do. I think that you have to, and I think that's what, I think at quarterback who's got legs, and when he gets out and he's rolling and he's pressing the perimeter, he can make some things happen. And you saw that in the game against Penn State. So why not take this?
I thought you guys looked good against Penn State.
Well, I mean, I think that's only, a good 498 yards given up, 38 points. I mean, I like, we're used to
Penn State's really scary good though.
Yeah. Well, that's what they think. That's for sure.
That's the hard thing is I was impressed by how well you guys played against Penn State. I thought you looked solid. It didn't go the way fans wanted it to, but I thought the team played well. So I gave you guys a thumbs up for that one. And I'm happy for my WVU friends that we're going to get 1 week where there will be no slitting of wrists. No matter what.
All righty, man. All righty. Hey, what are we going to talk about here now? What do you want to start off with?
You go ahead. You got a bunch of stuff, I understand.
Yeah, I got your slides. All I have to do is look at your Twitter account, and I can see what's going on here. So when I look here, defensive. Oh, what did I do with them? The slides. Hey, listen. As I try to find this here, all right. Let's go ahead and talk about USC. I want to talk about that Stanford thing. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's wild. So this is our last scheduled game against Stanford for the foreseeable future. And Stanford may be USC's, depending on your interpretation, is arguably USC's oldest or one of its oldest rivals.
Right.
I mean, USC was against Cal and Stanford was a game in like the 1880s. Going back to, it was the little dusty village in the South versus the big fancy San Francisco city in the North. And USC put on its, used to haul itself up by its bootstraps, built itself up as a school. And eventually they opened up a little public school across the town from us too. But I mean, going back, USC versus Stanford was a major game. And so it's weird to me that this is going to be the last one. We both have two very different but very distinctive and symbolic bands. Their band is like the most offensive band in all of sports with their little shows they put on, and our band, blasts away the whole time. So it's going to be the last time, again, for the foreseeable future, we have the two bands going against each other, and it's going to be pretty wild to have it wrap up here. But Stanford, we thought they were going to be atrocious. They came out against Hawaii and looked decent. So I'm Troy Taylor's a great coach. And I mean, the day they hired him, I said, this is a great hire. I just didn't know how long it would take him to be able to, turn on what he was trying to do. And I mean, again, it's Hawaii. They might only win a couple games, but Stanford looked a whole lot better, I thought, than we feared.
Okay.
So
are they going to put a problem up for USC?
Hopefully not, but that's the thing about Stanford USC game is that it can provide surprises. I was actually overseas at like 6 a.m. In 2007 when we had the wild game where I think we were the 41-point favorite and lost. At the time, It was the biggest loss in the history, like in Vegas history, as far as point spread goes. So, wilder things have happened. We don't ever, one of the rules for USC is you don't ever take Stanford or Cal for granted, no matter what.
Well, there you go, have it. And with that being said, I did find the slides, and we're going to have to go ahead and get it down here right there. And just give me a second. There we go. And all right, start it off, man. Start it off, Tony. What do you got?
So this is kind of interesting. Now, this has changed because the conferences have changed a little bit. If you imagine, kind of the Big 12 has moved up a little bit, and of course the Pac-12 isn't on the line anymore. But this is taking a look at earned revenue. So this is money that the athletic department sort of earns, not counting money that they're getting from the school.
Okay.
And what you see here is the gap between the Power Four now conferences and the G5 is massive. So the G5 schools don't really make any money. I mean, they all lose. Every single one of them loses money, significant amounts. I mean, so the athletic department is funded with 10, with 20, with 30, with 40, $50 million of school money the school is putting in. And so one of the questions really starts to become, at what point are they not going to put up that kind of money? And what, whether it's for football, whether it's for soccer, whether it's for basketball or whatever, as the money rains around the Power 5 schools, they are shelling it out.
Mm-hmm.
And at what point is that going to stop? And the other real question then that you start to come up with is with the Power 5 schools, as money now starts to go to players, at what point do we, I'll give you a wonderful example. This is going to be a really cool, amazing facility. USC is building a $30 million stadium for soccer and lacrosse. And it's going to be awesome. And I mean, everything in LA costs a lot more to build than anywhere else too. So, cut that in by a third for what it would cost to probably build Morgantown. But still, like, they're spending $30 million on a soccer and lacrosse stadium. At what point do we not do the major schools say we're not going to spend that? And there was a big report the other day coming out from the Knight Commission about how, as football revenues are expected to go up, football coaching salaries are just skyrocketing. So the Knight Commission was questioning to university presidents like, hey, you need to get a handle on your spending before you turn into these NFL teams, really figure out what you're doing. And there's an interesting model particularly for Olympic sports that I think we could take a look at, which is that some schools do things where they spend a ton. We already do it, where they operate like one sport on a Division I level and other sports on a Division III level. So there's lots of options that people could do that will cut spending, because right now those huge subsidies that the G5 schools are putting in, I don't think they're sustainable, and they're especially not sustainable because something that you and I talked about the other day. There is a enrollment cliff that is going to smack a lot of universities like a 2x4 in the head over the next 2 to 5 years.
Right.
And that is because, if you guys in the audience who don't know, when the recession happened, a lot of people stopped having babies. So next year is when like those babies who people didn't have, therefore aren't going to college. So all of the population shift there's just a demographic cliff where a whole bunch of these kids who weren't born really aren't going to college. And as a result, all of these subsidies that are going into these G5 schools, are the G5 schools going to want to keep putting in 20, 30, 40 million dollars into their baseball team and their soccer team and their football team, or are they going to have to make some budget changes? And it's going to be really interesting to see, because the budgets that these universities are having just really aren't sustainable right now. I mean, and kudos to WVU, and you guys have taken a lot of flack on this, but I think you guys are getting out ahead of it.
That's all right. That's one. Now, let me ask you this. All right, when you look at all these G5s, are these G5s in real trouble of not being competitive anymore, just dropping down a level because they're spending the money? Do you see that in the future?
Yeah, so we see it in all sports though, right? Because I mean, if you're a lacrosse player, do you want to play in USC's $30 million lacrosse stadium? Or do you want to play at a field let's pick on somebody I like, Bowling Green? But that, I mean, just as an example, or UC Irvine, right down the way, or UC San Diego, another great school. So just you can't. You're getting to a point where you're just stratifying these layers so much. But you also have to ask the question of why are you doing that? So let's pick on swimming, because I have a lot of friends that are great swimmers. If you look at swimming, I mean, Cal and Stanford and Florida and North Carolina State and USC and Arizona State, they're sending people to the Olympics.
Yeah. So
if you're not sending people to the Olympics, why do you need to spend like you are?
That's a good point.
And you start to get some really big questions. And one of the reasons that we all love having athletics on the campus because of the things they teach, right? They teach competition. They teach competitiveness. The kids who are on sports teams donate more when they get older. You use it as a lure, right? Like a lot of schools, track teams, baseball teams, whatever, they use it to go get students that they just want to attend the school. You look at Division III schools, they actually consider recruiting of athletes to be one of the most effective things they can do to recruit the students that they want to have in the school.
Very true.
So there's a lot of reasons that you want that, but then you start to say, okay, do we need a $30 million stadium or not?
Probably not, Tony. Probably not, but that is USC now. All right. So
Big Ten money. We'll take it.
There you go.
Also, just to be clear, also LA construction costs.
No, I got that. And exactly what their housing's all about. All right, let's move on here now. This is something kind of cool. You put this out. What does it all mean, man? When I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the dots. I see WVU in the red, about 28% for the yield rate. What are we looking at here?
So this is something interesting. I was working on something the other day, and some of this stood out to me, so I thought I'd put this out there. This is taking a look at admissions. So going on the side is how hard is it to get into, and going up and down is of students you admit, how many want to go. And what's really interesting there, let's pick on Oregon and Stanford because they're kind of the extremes.
Okay.
Stanford is one of the hardest schools to get into in the country, and almost everybody they admit wants to go. About what is that about? Looks like I can't see exactly on the screen, but like 80 something, like 82%.
Yeah,
or
about right. That
Mm-hmm. It's about like 80 plus 85% of students that Stanford lets in want to go there. It is their number one choice. It's where they want to go. If you look at Oregon, and you think about some schools are more like safety schools or whatever. You look at Oregon lets in, it looks like they're about between 90 and 95% of their students.
Yeah.
But only about, 15 15, 16% of the people they let in actually go to the school. So, the students they're letting in are going to other places. So this is interesting to see just, kind of, where do students want to go? So if you take a look at WVU, and I think this is a great example of WVU, because one of the things about WVU is that you guys are a flagship school in the state, but you also have an important role to play in that state in who you admit.
Correct.
Like you guys, the mission of the school is to educate the people of the state. So if you take a look at WVU there, your admissions rate is higher than a lot of these places, but also your yield rate is higher because a lot of kids who get into WVU want to go to WVU. So, you take a look at that. The amount of kids that want to go to WVU that get into WVU is the same as like Washington, Virginia Tech. It's higher than Miami, higher than Wisconsin. So, that's why I like to look at lots of different numbers on these things because you see really cool things about the schools there. Look at BYU, for example. BYU is ridiculous on this
job. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not that hard to get into, but the people who get in want to go there. So, it's pretty cool. And you start to see sort of why they have maybe their fanatical fans, they want to be there. And so it's pretty neat. And you see a couple of the standouts there. Look at Texas A&M also, another one of those like really high yield rate, like people that get in there want to go there. So that's why I kind of like this chart. I thought it gave some interesting perspective.
Yeah, I think it does too. And then you go ahead and you take it, take it here. We'll go to the next one. One more. There you go. So now you go ahead and you take it from here and you look at it and you see Navy up top, Harvard, Army. These are all the non-power fives, G5s, and independents and whatever it might be. So go ahead and explain that one, what you see out of this.
Yeah, so this is the same chart, but taking a look at the G5, the Ivy League, the Big West, and the Big East. I should call them like the G8, but then people get mad at me for making up terms. But I always like to look at those 8 together. And you really see, you've got the Ivies up there along with Army, Navy, and Air Force. Now, one of the things, I don't know if you guys know this, Army and Navy were actually originally part of most of the pre-Ivy League stuff. And their athletic departments were actually intertwined into the Ivy League until I think 1992 is when Army and Navy baseball finally left the Ivy League. Because back when WVU was tied in with the ECAC,
right,
and all that was all linked together with Army and Navy as part of the Ivy League. And the ECAC was originally a combination of, they used to call them like the Eastern Intercollegiate Baseball League, Football League, whatever. And Army and Navy were linked in with the Ivy League schools. They actually tried to join the Ivy League a few times, and there was a lot of drama. And the Ivy League tried to get them to join. So lots of wacky drama with those 10 schools. And then you kind of see that little batch there of Georgetown and Tulane and Rice.
Yeah.
One of the ones that really stands out to me here, a school that is just booming, that it's an awesome school, that is just like on a rocket ship right now, is Kennesaw State.
Okay, I see it.
Which is. Yeah, it's in Atlanta, and it's a school that the state of Georgia, and I don't know the people who run it, but the Georgia regents who run the whole university system of Georgia. Those people are really smart, and they have done a brilliant job like planning their schools, nurturing their schools, building their schools, and one of them that they have just sort of earmarked as like, we want this to be a rocket ship, is Kennesaw State. And Kennesaw is moving into FBS next year. They're joining Conference USA. And you notice like they have like a 50% yield rate. So it's really neat. It's like a friend of mine described it once. And I mean this, I don't mean this as negative. I mean it as a positive.
Right.
But a friend of mine said, Kennesaw is the best place to go when you want to live in Atlanta, but you're not going to do calculus at Tech.
Well, I understand that actually. It makes sense. All right.
So because it's also a really good school. The research is up, all their stuff is up. I love that description. My tech friends laugh at that. But yeah, Kennesaw State's another one, just on a rocket ship there. And you see, all these really good. Look at San Diego State, way over there. A lot of people think about San Diego State like, people that are our age or older think about like the old school San Diego State, like, oh, it's a surfer party school. It is not. San Diego State is a hard school to get into.
Yeah. And it is right across from the beach, though.
Exactly. So it's not bad. Well, so is UC San Diego, and you look at them like they're right there together.
They're beautiful. Yeah, exactly.
And you really start to see like, okay, these are. But I really like this because you look at not just is it hard to get into, but like once people get in here, do they want to go here? And you see some really good schools that are clearly not people's first choice.
Right.
But then you also see some schools that are maybe not like, oh, it's not the snootiest high ranking one, but people want to go there. And so I love this chart just because it shows us, right? I said, schools like WVU, schools like Kennesaw State, there's FIU, even the University of Nevada, again, high up and people want to go there. So
that was interesting. I wonder what Jacksonville State is because they just moved up to FBS and I can't find them there, but not that you can find it out.
They should be in here. They should be. They're CUSA. So they should be red. Oh, there they are. They're. It looks like about 75-25.
Yeah, which is that goes correlates with that though, right?
Yeah, pretty good. And the thing too that schools find with this kind of stuff is that when you get more popular, like in sports help make you popular, those numbers go up. So the University of Utah, now these are fall 2021.
Okay.
So the University of Utah, because that's the latest numbers the government's published. But the University of Utah has talked about they believe the impact of the Rose Bowls that they've been playing in has dramatically improved their admissions numbers and their matriculation numbers.
Yes. Well,
so they're like, yeah, this is paid for itself.
Yeah, Tony, when we played in the national championship football, 88. That same year, the Mountaineers in basketball won 28 games and went to the second round and lost to Duke. And if they would have beat Duke, they could have really gone in advance.
Would have been pandemonium.
Pandemonium. Best two teams. So you put football, basketball together, and you combine them. Best record. Biggest influx in student body of the last 30, 40 years. Was that year from 88 to 89 because people want to go with a winner. And that's what I keep talking about, the whole perception of where they're at and where WVU has to be at because you don't want to be left behind. I mean,
well, and the other thing too, also for school, even for really good schools, having like a big sports push, like it makes the school more fun, it makes it more attractive, and also it helps you win students over that, kind of want a fun time. I mean, who watched that Duke game the other night and didn't think that looked like a really fun place to go to school?
Yeah, I agree. And when you have the perception of losing and not being somebody. I mean, look at Dion right now. I mean, people making moves. I mean, that team believes in him because he's empowered them. And that makes everybody want to be around that for students. And again, it's just compiling. And you can say what you want or think what you want about Dion. I'm telling you, the catch for
I love him. I'll tell you the other thing is I always challenge people if you don't like Deion Sanders, watch a 20-minute interview with him, and you're gonna love him. Like sometimes people like a soundbite that's out of just a random soundbite and people run with that. They don't like it or whatever. If you watch a 20-minute interview with him, I mean, I watched today. He sat down with Joel Klatt about a couple days ago for an interview, and I watched it. I'm about ready to run through a wall for him.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Did you see the pregame speech where his team are like? He's like, you're going through it all. Your man next to you, this guy. But then he was about to say, we're here now. They said it for him. That means they knew what was coming. They believe in what he's saying. And then again, he's got the coolest theme music going for the strut.
He's got it all. But the thing is, and Rich Eisen has talked about this a lot. And I really respect Rich Eisen a lot. But Rich Eisen has talked a lot about how Deion knows how to use his persona and swagger to get the attention on the football, which he is prepared and ready and successful at. And Rich says he's always done it. Rich Eisen was talking about, he said, Dion used to get, after games, he would like sit in a bathtub to recover with a VCR and TV. You know, this is back in the day, like set up on the toilet so that he could watch game. He was studying game film in the recovery tub of the hotel.
Nobody prepared more than he did. I mean, he's one of the best of all time, but nobody prepared the way he did. And he was one of the
And that Colorado team was prepared.
That Colorado team was prepared. I mean, you go ahead. You got to do some serious mental stuff for a team to be 1-11, and then you take 59 transfers and you mold them in. Now, the defense has to do better, but again, and they have an NFL quarterback, but that goes along with everything, man. But again, look at them in the Big 12 now. They were a 1-11 football team, and they were one of the most sought after schools because Dion brought that swagger. And now the money's just come crushing in, and Colorado never even had the money to begin with. They went and hired him before they even got the money, and now they have the money. I mean, what is that?
Well, and the other thing is Colorado is a great school. So when I've done academics numbers, Colorado is depending on, I mean, so when you average metrics, so if you just look at like, I just look at the U.S. News ranking, then you get different things. So if you average the academic rankings, Colorado is now the #1 academic school in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Colorado is a great school. They have like a obscenely amazing hospital system and the medical school, and I mean, Colorado's a great school that's going to be great for the Big 12. Also, it's such a fun place to go.
Yes, bingo. I mean, that makes it entertaining to travel to and get up there. I'll go down. There's nothing like it. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here. This last slide I have here that I have for you. We'll see. Well, there's two more actually. I want you to go ahead and talk about this, what you wrote in your Twitter, and then I'll show you the chart.
Oh, sure. So actually, put the chart up. I can talk to the chart for folks that want to see it. So I was looking at some interesting stuff about Oregon the other day. And one of the things about Oregon is Oregon has always relied on students from California. And so one of the things I thought was interesting is we think about Oregon in the Big Ten.
Right.
Going back to the 1950s and 60s, which we talked about how everything in the Pac-12 was a repeat of the past.
Yep.
And in the 1950s and 60s, Oregon, it was because of their own behavior, but they were left behind when they created the new Pac. And they begged and clawed and did everything possible to get in because they understood that they needed to be tied to the state of California. Mm-hmm. And so I wondered really how tied they were to the state of California today. And it was really, really, really eye-opening for me because Oregon gets 30% of their students from the state of California. That's insane. So Arizona State gets a lot. But they're at like, I think, I forget the number. It's like 15, which is a lot.
Right.
Oregon's at 30%. The other thing about Oregon is Oregon doesn't do a lot of government research. They, don't have a huge endowment. I mean, it's a great school. It's an AAU school, but they really rely on tuition for money.
Right.
42% of Oregon's budget comes from tuition. I think like 1 or 2% of Princeton's does. So, that gives kind of an indication there. WVU, it's only, 30 or 35. Like you guys are much lower. So this is a really high number. 42% of their money comes from tuition. And a huge chunk of that comes from the very, very expensive out-of-state tuition that California residents are paying.
Well,
the funniest thing is I posted this today, and a couple people commented on the thing, but I also got some DMs from people that were like, I hate you because I have to write these checks.
Well,
I have friends from California whose kids go to Oregon, and they were like, this is the most depressing thing I've ever seen. But it just shows. So when we think about why was it so important for Oregon to get in the Big Ten, all of those sports arguments are totally true.
Right.
100% true. But Oregon is pulling something like 300. I don't know the exact numbers because we can't pull those out, but it looks like it's about of their $900 million budget, probably about $300 million of that is tuition money from California students.
Ew, okay. Well,
and all of a sudden, like the need, like why does Oregon have to be attached to USC and UCLA? because they need a presence in California for their whole school.
Makes sense. Makes sense. But let me just say this. West Virginia was always getting New Jersey kids because the tuition was so much cheaper. It was still out of state for West Virginia, and it brought in more money for West Virginia, but it was cheaper than going to school in Jersey. And
because the old colonial states, other than Virginia, somehow Virginia did this right, but the others of them, and actually, I guess from Virginia down, they all kind of did it right. But from sort of above Maryland, it starts to get screwy because they had the really old schools, so they didn't really build the right public school networks for a long time until like World War II hit, and then they went, oh crap, all the GIs and the baby boomers, we need to build some schools. Right. And so the younger states almost have better schools to absorb that stuff. My friend what is it they call Duke, the University of New Jersey at Durham, and my friends at Clemson always talk about the yellow license plates streaming in. And you guys have the same things. There, a lot of those Jersey kids go around, and same with California, where the California kids are going all over, especially because one of the issues with California is that the UC schools are amazing, and so are the Cal State schools, but there's not enough middle for that.
Yes.
And so those kids go to Oregon. Wow.
All right. Speaking of Oregon State, and talking about Wazoo, what's going on now that it's that Oregon State and Cal and Stanford are going ACC, SMU? What's the word, man?
That's the really interesting debate. So right now there is a whole bunch of mess with a bunch of attorneys that are digging through the Pac-12 bylaws to try to figure out what exactly is going to happen, because what they had done is the schools that were leaving had recused, like USC and UCLA, almost kind of, and I actually said at the time, I thought they were being a little too generous in relinquishing themselves from the board meetings. They started attending the Big Ten meetings and not attending the Pac-12 meetings. But now there's some issues because they're really trying to figure out, like Oregon State are trying to figure out, do we control the whole conference now? And actually, not really. So now that 10 of the 12 have said they're leaving, the 10 of the 12 are like, you guys don't get to just run everything here. Certainly not for the next year. So there's questions about the money that's left behind. There's questions about how money can be distributed, how much control their two presidents have. So apparently there's a lot of lawyers involved right now trying to think about stuff. The sort of rumor, which is the thing that we had talked about a while ago, I think you and I have even talked about this, is that probably the best bet or the smartest thing would be for the Mountain West to reverse merge itself into the Pac-2.
Yeah.
And call it the Pac. Because again, remember guys, anybody who's watching your show is in the 1% elite of football followers in the world. Right. So the 99% of people, like the brand name of the Pac is still going to be more powerful in the Mountain West.
Yes, it's true. But what are you going to do? I think that's so much better than going with the AAC and some of those teams about playing Wazoo and Oregon State with Memphis. That doesn't make much sense, does it?
It's a long way from East Carolina to the Palouse.
It really is. And how many people are going to want to watch it?
Well, the thing is the American has some really good teams. Like Memphis is awesome. Like I think Memphis belongs in the Big 12 or the ACC, 100%. Like I love Memphis. The service academies, we love watching the service academies, but you just get to a point where the travel is so expensive and excessive for the fact that you're not getting the money to pay for it. So even like USC and UCLA, they're looking at what their plan to do, which is actually, believe it or not, what the Pac-12 has always done. The Pac-12 was always the best at scheduling because the schools were all in pairs by big airports.
Right.
So with USC and UCLA, one of their plans, for example, is I'm just going to make this up, right? But they would take the USC and UCLA soccer team and volleyball team from from both schools. They'll drive to Burbank Airport and have a charter plane take them to Detroit, where they'll both play Michigan and Michigan State and flip, and then all fly home together. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, there's actually some precedent for that, because funny enough, like USC and UCLA, like basketball and volleyball, like stay together in the same hotel when they go to play Oregon and Oregon State.
Okay, yeah.
They spend the weekend together at the same hotel and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually, they were looking at it, and the athletic departments were talking about it. They were like, this is actually kind of a cool thing. You know, we can sort of take the two teams together.
Right.
You know, put both swim teams and both track teams or whatever together, fly to somewhere in the Midwest for the weekend, fly them back, and they're back home in bed by midnight. But you got to have Big Ten money to pay for that. If you don't have Big Ten money to pay for that, the Southwest Airlines trying to find your way from, I don't know, from you know, the Washington State, which is essentially in Idaho, and you know, 2 connections or whatever it's going to take to get to East Carolina is going to be would be really hard.
Yeah, especially for the, you know, soccer team or somebody. Yeah, just crazy. All right.
Now, Pete Thamel's been reporting one thing that I think is kind of exciting. If you heard this, Pete Thamel's been reporting, which I think is overdue. I think it's awesome. That the American is in talks with West Point about adding them as a football-only member together with Navy.
I like that. I mean, I've always liked.
I do too.
I like the academies. I think they're tough, they're gritty, and you know they had a lot of people that defended this country, and it's a lot of fans, a lot of support. So I'm all about it, man. All right, what about it? All right, so. Let me just say, is the front runners of the Pac-12, and I'm going to let you go after this. Who's your front runners, and who's staying the leg? I already know one.
What? Who's staying in the conference? Who's front runners for the games?
Yeah. Who's your?
Oh my God, there's so many.
Yeah.
This is wild, because this is the best year this is the best like Pac-12 year they've had. It literally in the history of all of conferences. They're 13-0 right now. They're not going to say 13-0, but. The conference is undefeated. Yeah. It's wild. And so, you know, it's kind of leave it to the Pac-12 to blow itself up and then go undefeated.
Exactly.
Like only in the Pac-12 would they blow themselves up and then go undefeated. But no, you got USC looks great. Washington looks fantastic. Yeah. I think Oregon looks amazing. Utah's getting their quarterback back, which is going to revive them. I mean, Utah looked great in demolishing Florida, but they're getting their quarterback back, and they're going to be really good again. Yeah. You've got Colorado. Now, who knows what's going on with Colorado? I mean, Colorado, I don't know if they're going to be 8-3 or 3-8 at this point. Yeah. So, you know,
don't bet against primetime. I'm telling you.
I'm not. But like, that's why I said, I don't know, you know, what's going to happen because I think they're going to beat Nebraska, because I was not impressed with Nebraska the other day. Right. I mean, yeah, Matt Rule has a rebuilding process, and he's doing it right. So, like, you know, go Matt Rule, because I love him. But he has a process of rebuilding, and I think that Colorado has just turbocharged themselves. So they're gonna be 3-0 when they take on Oregon.
Oh yeah, but you know that will be the true test, because that defense did struggle some, and that might be more than even Dion can handle.
Well, and you guys know this from WVU, I don't know what to think about TCU yet. Everybody had just assumed that TCU lost all of I thought the heart that made them so good.
They did. I mean, you lost Duggan, which is, you know, this thing he lost the first round.
And the line and the defense and the receiver.
I mean, you know.
They lost a lot.
And they got on a roll, Tony, to be quite honest with you. Most times you wouldn't say that they were going to be that. That was a Cinderella story for them. It really was.
In an awesome way. I was telling my TCU friends, I was like, hey guys, I am all for your Cinderella run. I'm all about it. But at some point the clock's going to strike midnight. And unfortunately the clock struck midnight against Georgia.
No, it did. And not only did it strike midnight, it punched you right in the face when it did.
Yeah, and then it was eating chicken wings on the sideline.
Exactly.
When the starters are sitting there on the sideline with chicken wings, that's when it's gone off the rails. So, you know, I mean, because I have a lot of friends from TCU, and so I hope that like they get it back together. But you know, one of the things that I like that Nebraska Northwestern game last year, I don't think did either of them win again after that. No, I think Nebraska won something, but it was, you know, just we thought this was a great game, and then it turned out both teams were bad. So we'll see what happens, but I think it's going to be really interesting.
You know, I have to worry. I have to worry about all these conference realignment. I've said this before, but Nebraska is a prime example of turning into non-relevancy.
Yeah.
Into the Big Ten when they were the Big Eight, and they were recruiting all those Texas recruits they had, and that's when they were relevant. And they went there. So I'm still interested in seeing what schools are going to stay up and top, or who's going to, accelerate, who's going to get better, and who's going to drop off. I think that's still yet to be seen.
Well, and you know, I'll tell you in all honesty, if you like, for example, you look at the Big Ten's new TV deal, right? That puts them in those amazing TV slots. If I'm the Big Ten schools, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Trojan, but if I'm the Big Ten schools, the last thing in the world I want to do is add Oregon, who's now going to take that CBS slot that I wanted to play in.
True.
And I'm on the Big Ten network, and Oregon's in my Big Ten slot on CBS.
Yes. And it could happen. I mean, what if you're Rutgers? I mean, think about it. You know, I mean,
Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana, Purdue, Minnesota,
yes,
heck, Nebraska. I mean, just so you never know. And that's, I think, a real issue with these conferences as people think about them growing is you start to look at some of the other schools and you're like, well, really what's in it for me?
Well, it really is. And I think you're going to see when they do go to that Power 2. I don't think the Rutgers is going to be in there. I really don't. I mean, I think the money is going to dictate that Rutgers, I mean, have they improved at all since being in the Big Ten?
No.
Bit.
Well,
Right?
they also, I feel like maybe a little bit. Yeah, I mean, they probably have a little bit. You're right.
Yeah,
you guys know them from the past. Like, I feel like they are one of those teams that really benefited from being on top of the world at the moment that it happened to be really good for them to be on top of the world.
I think you're right.
And you look at, well, let's pick on somebody else who I feel like and it's a lot of their own fault, right? But Stanford has been brutal for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And if Stanford, if this whole thing had been happening in 2016 with Christian McCaffrey, you think Stanford would have made it in the Big Ten? 100%.
Yep. No, you're right.
So, you know, timing is key. You know, and timing is also key with staff. I mean, Memphis. Look at all the great things Memphis is doing now. If Memphis had their president in place 2 years before and done all the stuff with the Liberty Bowl and this new coach, Memphis probably would be in the Big 12 today.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they were right there. They were right there, and they were winning, and they're doing the same thing UCF was.
Yeah,
they were right on par with UCF and then Houston and all that. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Tony. And last thing then is Ohio State 23-3 over Indiana. Are they not as impressive because just like Penn State, WVU 38-15, is Ohio State not as impressive?
So coming from a Big Ten family, like that's a solid win in the Big Ten. Like, I mean, because I grew up with Lloyd Carr from Michigan, and my dad was actually his recruiting host when he was an 18-year-old quarterback from Riverview High School or whatever, and came to Michigan State. Later, in one of my dad's Hall of Fame induction speeches, admitted that my dad got him drunk for the first time in his life in East Lansing. So, so growing up around those teams, Michigan and Michigan State, like 23-3 feels like a solid win. Like, oh, it's a very Big Ten win.
It's a very Big Ten win. All right, man. Well, listen, Tony, you got anything else you want to say? Anything else you want for the good of the cause?
Right on Trojans, guys. Last game against Stanford this week, and go Mountaineers.
All right. Yep. All right. Hey, Trojans, yeah. Last game against Stanford. That's amazing. What year was the last time they played? Or the first time they played? What year? 18 what?
Probably sometime in the 1880s.
18. That's crazy, man.
I'd have to check. Yeah, I mean, those were the. I mean, that was back when I mean, I remember one of them, when Herbert Hoover, I think, was like the manager, like the team manager of the Stanford football team.
Wow.
Before he became president. Yeah, so it's wild.
That
hey,
is,
Mike, fight on.
All right, man. Fight on. Hey, Tony, thanks so much, man. I love having you on the show.
Anytime.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, guys. That's Tony Altimore, and his Twitter is at TJ Altimore. If you're not following him, man, you're crazy because he's putting out great stuff every day. Take care, buddy.
Thank you. We'll take you soon. See you soon.
Yep. All right. Again, hey, I'm telling you, man, follow his Twitter because he's putting out stuff. You're like, where'd he come up with that? Where'd he come up with that? Like, what's going on, man? Like, unbelievable. What do we got here? It says, good day, Tony. It's going Mountaineers. What do we have? We had a bad thunderstorm roll through here in Boone County, West Virginia. Momentarily lost my internet. All right. Well, I'm glad you're back, man. I'm glad you're back. And where are you from? Boone County, man? I remember they had a big old pig roast down there in Boone County. I must have ate like 30 pounds of beef, 30 pounds of pig, man. I'll tell you what, I enjoy that very much. Again, let's go ahead. Let's jump up here. Let's get Abby Pearson coming up. And I'm going to drop a link here. Anyone to see if anybody wants to come on, but let's first talk to Abby.
Hi, I'm Abby Pearson from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and when I'm back home, you will find me at my local Parmar store.
We had that gold and blue pride at your local Parmar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Parmar app and sign up for the Parmar Rewards Card. Food, gas, groceries, and more, we are gold and blue proud, and we are Parmar stores.
If there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Abby. NIL Parmar stores, man. Cranking it, man. Smacking it. And if you like it, smack those like buttons there. And I'll tell you what, I love Tony, man. And Tad was really cool. Tad Maury there. Duquesne, boy, he just broke down. You just get it right here in the WolfMan's call. I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and brag or be like that, but we just get you great guests to give you the knowledge. And when Tony came on this show, I owe that to Joey, man. So Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers and all that. But Tony, hey, I tell you what, he's great. And someone else that's great, and that's got to be this guy. Frank Ferry is going to jump on. Frank, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, you should brag. What a great show.
I tell you.
What a great show.
I knew you were going to love his stats. He's great stats.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I don't know how many folks I've talked to when I start talking about academics and so on, they say, hey, old man, it's not important. Only what's on the field is important. And he blew that right out of the water. I mean, there is a connection. We've talked about that over and over again. And I just think he's great. And the analysis he does is just spot on.
Well, I just want to know how he remembers everything. I mean, you know what? He remembers more than I forgot. I forget a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's truly amazing. He's got to have one of those minds that's photographic, because it's just, he can pick up stuff just like that. He's a fantastic asset for anyone to sit there and listen to. I would, if he comes on here every Thursday, I would be glued listening to what he's got to say each and every week, because he knows exactly what's going on in the country, the vibes, and what he hears, and the big thing too is, like you, Frank, you do a lot of research, and so he does that as well, and that's why I love having you here on our Mondays. So very good, man. Let's see, what's up, Frank? What's the news for today?
Well, one of the things that I think he brings out, and you and I have talked about this, and your other guests too. I mean, the landscape is changing.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, I talked to someone and said, "Do you know the admission rate at Central Florida is 44%?" And they thought I was kidding. It can't be 44%. That's a directional school. It's got the spot in the state where it's located. Central Florida.
Yes.
It's 44%. And I'll tell you what, that is very competitive with most of the Big Ten schools, not Northwestern or Michigan, but my God, it's unbelievable. And what he said about Kennesaw State, I've been on that campus, and they are building that up. And so I hate to say it, but schools that have been there, done it for many years, just can't can't sit on their laurels. They have to keep on moving forward because, hey, there are a bunch of schools. In fact, West Georgia wants to go to Division I for all the reasons we've talked about,
Right.
all the reasons we've talked about.
Well, all right. So I'm looking and I was thinking about Jacksonville State. Again, did those numbers correlate that they were going up to FBS? And only because I know Rich Rod, but that's why I was thinking that. But yes, you can see that those numbers are going because they're moving up and people want to go and see a team that's going to be competitive and play in a bigger league. I mean, there's no doubt that it has to. So, and then you think about what with President Gee of West Virginia. And what about Tony with the 2007 when he said that there's going to be shortage and budget cuts? But he's talking about for all the country because of that recession. People stop having kids.
Yeah.
How did he not know that then?
Yeah.
I mean, how did Tony know that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying is I didn't know it either. So I'm in the same boat. All right. I'm not acting like I knew that. But when he threw that up there and said, well, the recession in 2007, all right, so that makes sense. You have a recession and everything dropped. You stop having kids there for a bit because you couldn't afford them or you didn't think you could. And then, I mean, why did we see the increase when this is going to be going across the country? I don't understand that, Frank. Do you?
Well, it's really painful. Anybody like the two of us who are alums of West Virginia, this is a painful time because the Board of Governors is going to make that decision next Friday, I guess, on the 15th. I'll be in Morgantown at the time, so I'll get the answer firsthand. And I think they're going to approve this. And, WVU's calling it a transformation. Hey, it's austerity. It's cut. Central Florida is not cutting. They're moving forward. Kennesaw State, the same. And do you think, Wolf, if Duquesne isn't playing West Virginia, that we'd be talking about Duquesne this week? A lot of Catholic schools are getting back into football now, and there's a good reason. It gets you in the newspapers. It gets you attention. It's moving forward with vision. It's not cutting and slicing and dicing. So I'm really worried. I'm worried about my alma mater, and I'm not alone.
No, I think you're right. And I just, I have to sit here and wonder about the leadership and when you have to grow, and I don't think the people are seeing is that the perception. It's about perception. But he just got done telling us and showing us the stats, the data, that when you have something jiving, when you have something smoking, when you have something that's cool, and you have something that's working, you get the students. And if it's not working, how can you say we can't afford it? And I'm not saying about Neil Brown or like that, but you got to win. And you got to change his perception. And then you have to win with your college athletics and not go ahead and have a $45 million budget fall when there's a 2007 crisis of having children born. I mean, he blew my mind when I heard that. I'm saying, okay, that makes sense to me now. Again, I did not know that. But what he just told us was, why didn't our people know that?
Well, yeah, one of the things Tony did, which I really appreciate, was that one slide on the yield rate. A lot of people don't know what that means, and why should they? I mean, it's jargon, academic jargon, or at least institutional jargon. But what it means is, hey, you can apply somewhere, but to what extent is that yielding, commitments? And that's one of the things that tripped West Virginia. They did have a significant number of applications a couple of years ago, but the yield rate was low. And I don't know. I mean, there's a difference between management and leadership. Management is about dotting I's and crossing T's. It's about handling the day-to-day. Leadership is about vision. It's about where are we going to be in 5 and 10 years. And I'll tell you what, you make a bet. You make a bet about the future. But what you're saying, which is really important, Wolf, you make that bet on the future based on an analysis of information and projections. And West Virginia, I mean, I think there are a lot of things that attract people to West Virginia. It attracted my wife and I, it attracted you and others. I just think it's a matter of getting the ducks in order. And you're right, you can't do it without winning. You just can't. You can't.
Well, I know what attracted me to West Virginia football was I watched my brother Ronnie kick some can and the Mountaineers. And I'm talking about all the Mountaineers. And I just talked to a guy today, and I can't give his name out, but he's a coach for, 40 years in Division I. And he said, he goes, there's still something missing about toughness when you're a Mountaineer. And we're going back to your 66 and 70 guys, going back to the early 80s, going back to Rich Rod times, Bill Stewart times, you know what I mean? Even Dana Hogerson times. I just don't think there's the toughness going on. I think that's affecting it. And I think we're lacking, man. And Neil Brown, I'm telling you right now, he needs to really, this is it. This is it. I mean, you got Duquesne, you got Pitt, and you got a 3-game homestand. What was it, Texas Tech? The next game? Yeah. So, this is your time, man, to go ahead and put this together. And Frank, I want to get more into football talk right now. I've really thought about this all week long. I don't think that they're using this team to their strengths. I think they could be more effective in going with the Garrett Green. Okay, that's your guy. I understand it. Go with your guy, Garrett Green. But you can't drop back 33 times and have 19 pressures on him and expect him to sit back there. He's already running after 2 seconds. When you drop back 1,001, 1,002, he's running. All right, he's looking for a way out because you have to find that first read. And so start moving him out anyways. Hit the perimeter, move the pocket, man. You know what I'm saying? Put a conflict there on the defense. Am I going to run or am I going to pass it, right? What do you call it? You call it a bootleg? You saw Drew Allard, 6'5", 245. He rolled out. Did you see one play call to Garrett Green? Tell me if I'm wrong. There was any kind of a rollout, any kind of a bootleg, where he can actually get out in the field, knock the field down to half a field, right? Because you make it smaller. When you're out there, you go to hit the perimeter. And what do? I mean, it's right there. He can see who he's throwing to. You got a 6'7" tight end, and you got big receivers. But not when you're standing back in the pocket and they're just going ahead and they're just pinning their ears back and they're coming right after you. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I'm one that, basically took solace that the team hung in there against Penn State because a number of us were concerned that it could be a blowout. But again, looking at the data that I shared a couple weeks ago, I really was confident in saying I think there's a 50% chance they'll cover the spread and a 25% chance of winning. And when I picked the score, 31 to 17, 31-14. Yeah, 31-17. And it was pretty close. But the question is not where it ends, but how you get there. And it was better than last year, as you pointed out multiple times. But there's this middle ground between running a very conventional offense and gadgetry. And I think what you're talking about, Wolf, is that middle ground. There are things that can be done within the scheme of the offense that's neither conventional, and it doesn't require a gadget play that still hasn't been discovered yet, or Green doesn't have enough confidence in, or the coaches don't have enough confidence in him to call it. I don't know.
I don't think they're given the opportunity.
There you go.
Okay. Use his legs. What's his best asset? His legs, right? It's not his 5'11" height. Now, I'm not ripping on him about it, but you got 6'5" offensive tackles. Why am I only 6'6"? I mean, you got Zach Frazier 6'3.5". You got Thomas Remack is 6'6". You got Brandon Yates, who's got to be at least 6'5". All right, these guys are coming right back at you. So if that first read's not there, what do? Man, I'm going to get outside his pocket where I can see everything in the field. And
as you talked about, though, that offensive line has to pass block much better. They did okay run block, but pass block, we talked about the Pro Football Focus stats the other day. Offensive line did graded out well on running and not well at all. And I think the low 30s or high 20s on pass blocking, and that just isn't going to do. Not with that experience.
Well, I agree. Let me just ask you this then: if that's what you saw, And Penn State, we all knew that they had a pass rush. All knew they had over 43 sacks in the Big Ten. Why would you not move your pocket? Why would you not try to help your offensive line? That's what I'm saying, man. That's all I'm saying. Go to play to your strengths. And again, it's not every time we're saying this. We're saying is you got to keep them guessing. You got to play. You got to go ahead and be like, well, this first down, we did this last time. We'll do something different. It's not gadgetry. It's just moving the ball around and not letting them get a fit every third and long. And so they were just teeing off because there's a pocket. Hey, the two ends are like, hey, I'll meet you in the middle. There's two bookends, right? They'll meet you in the middle. And he did some good things in running, but if he's going to run, then put him out there to run the first place. So we can actually have a play design for the tight end. So that's what I'm trying to get at. That's what I want. So we get to that. Let's talk Saturday. Duquesne Dukes. Did you see Tad Maurey? Did you hear him at all?
Yes, I did. I watched it. I thought he was very good. And again, this is another example linking it to what Tony said is, they're recruiting from all over the country. We talked about that on Monday. The quarterback from LA and a running back from transfer from Missouri. He's from St. Louis, wide out from Miami. They're recruiting from all over the place. And I looked at the future schedule. He was talking, and this is it for Duquesne. From what I can tell, the next major school they're going to play is in 2026 against Air Force. They have no major Power 5 or Power 4 team on the schedule next year or the year after that. They're going to come in. And they're going to, this is it for them. They play Coastal later on and so on, but this is the big game for them.
Sure.
And so I thought he did a very good job. Obviously they're very serious. They're recruiting well. They've got an experienced coach. It's a good school. Duquesne University is a good school in a great town. So, I mean, it's going to be, well, I look at it this way. After the Texas Tech game, West Virginia should be 3-1. And to get there, you got to beat Duquesne first.
Yep, you sure do. But I'm going to say this. Jerry Schmidt, 15 winning seasons out of 19, 2021-22, they went undefeated. And they've been to FCS, and they beat Ohio, first team in the Northeast Conference, that went ahead and beat a FBS team. This guy he knows football. And I think – what you can say is, listen, you got some athletes. You have 13 Division I transfers, so they have guys that can play. That's not a lot of depth. We all know that. That's not getting it. But what they can do is they can make you stub your toe.
That's right.
And that is the one thing that Neil Brown does not need, is to have a stub toe and give another impression of issues. So this team, after this, Frank, after this now think about this, right? And we got to make sure I don't forget about we're talking about your event coming up here for the Pit Week, but we'll post it up next week. But think about this: you just all summer long you've heard Pat McAfee, Kirk Herbstreit, even myself say, "Hey, it's going to be a tough. All this is tough. Get up for this." You heard Neil Brown. Camp is physical. It's tough. We got to be ready for these running backs, tackling them. We got to be ready for this offensive line. We got to be ready for this defensive line. Everything. Penn State, top 7 team in the country. Get up, and be there for the moment on national TV. And then it's over.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoo, right? Oh, but now you got to get up again and say, all right, we have 11 more games guaranteed. That was one, and maybe we showed good. Some people like the way they showed out, and so now I got to get up this Duquesne team, and now they're the ones that have been waiting for this. They didn't care about the Scots last weekend, up there, Edinburgh. They didn't care about them. What they cared about is that this is their shot.
That's right.
To me, the role reversal is just exactly the same.
Exactly.
But now West Virginia is the big boy on the street, on the block. And Duquesne's coming in, and they're like, well, you're going to get killed by West Virginia. Well, no, we're going to fight, and we're going to play. And this guy, Jerry Schmidt, this is what scares me.
He's the real deal.
He's the real deal. He's quality. And when you have that, that could be problems if you come out flat.
Yep.
So again, that's what does Neil Brown have to worry about now? Has anyone even talked about being flat? I think Neil. Oh, actually, I think I'll take it back. I think Neil came out and said, "You better not be flat for only 12 games in the season." So I take that back. He did say that. Again, but I haven't heard very much other talk about it. And I know once you go ahead, people were bruised up after that game. Now that was physical.
Yeah.
Right? And so now you got to take care of business during the week and heal your body, heal your mind. And so again, it's something you have to be concerned about when heading into this game.
Yeah, and I think based on last week's performance in the Big 12, you've got a lot to look forward to. The Big 12 may not be as strong as people thought they would be top to bottom. I mean, Baylor, I know their quarterback went out, but Baylor really laid an egg. So did Texas Tech up in Laramie. TCU, I mean, I think they'll be back. They've got to get their defense, particularly the secondary, in order. They were just run completely over. But you look at BYU, we talked about that the other day, at home with those rabid fans, as Tony talked about, 7-0 going into the fourth quarter against Sam Houston. Houston barely winning by 3. And so Central Florida did really well. The team no one's talking about, because we did earlier, we said we're not quite sure Satterfield's the guy at Cincinnati. And they did very well, big blowout. But West Virginia, picked for last, could be a very, very competitive team and should be, really should be. Not, I will rephrase that, not can be, should be. And I believe that should be changed to will be a real contender in the Big 12, not just because they've improved from last year, but the rest of the league doesn't look that strong. And when you flip it over, the Pac-12 looks like gangbusters. I mean, it's amazing. So anyway.
You know what? I think you're right. But I'm going to say this, Frank, should be. I like that. Okay, I like that. But they got to do things differently.
That's right.
You cannot go ahead and run a drop back offense every single time with the 5'11" quarterback. They didn't do it with Doug Flutie. They didn't do it with Drew Brees. They just moved the pocket around. I'm talking about moving it from setting up over a tackle. I mean, that's still a different angle, isn't it? Instead of setting up over a center, so you have the center, you got the two bookends coming at you here. How about just going over here? Now, that's a different angle for him to go. It's not the same. So you have to be smart, and you have to be really smart about that defensive secondary. I showed this in the film the other day. You watch Penn State on crucial downs, they got uptight, and they challenged the receivers at WVU. They challenged the defenders. How many times did you see RPO time and see our DBs 10 yards deep, and there's not even anyone even in space to step in front of that throw? So you can do 5-yard hitches. They got to react because they're backing up. I mean, it's too soft. They have to change that.
Yeah, no question.
Challenge it. You have to. You can't believe.
Yeah.
Let me just say this. Penn State did not come in here with the greatest of receivers.
That's right.
They did not. They were untested. Like Keandre Smith or whatever his name is. He looks like he could be special. But you had another Mac guy. You had Montre Miller. You had our defenders. I mean, challenge these guys.
Got to.
When you're on the 18-yard line of your own 18-yard line, and I show this in the film, but if they're on the 18 receiver, and then you're on the 8-yard line as a defender, you don't got 10 yards to back up anymore.
That's right.
I mean, that's just freebie stuff.
Yeah, and Burks is going to have to play a lot better. In fact, you could argue he can't play much worse. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, it was unbelievable. Other thing that's really important, we're talking about Cincinnati too. I'll tell you one game I'm going to be watching over the weekend. We talked about Cincinnati. They're playing at Pitt this weekend. And so let's see how a Big 12 team does against Pitt at Pitt. Not just for general interest, obviously, we're playing Pitt the week after that. But I'm wondering what kind of schemes they're going to run against Pitt, because I think that, obviously the two things we're looking at is we've got to do exactly what you're talking about against Duquesne. And then obviously the analysis of that Cincinnati Pitt games becomes job one after that.
All right. Well, listen, Frank, I want you to stay on here. Have you got time? 10 minutes?
Sure.
I want you to stay on and check this out because this is Thursday film. What I find interesting, and I just want to play it, and I will get your thoughts about it as well. And I'm just going to let it go through. But this is some good football coming up right here. As you can see there, look at the block.
Yeah.
You see that? That's pretty sweet, isn't it? Pretty sweet. I love it. Driving him. We had a guy do that in the Oklahoma game, the wide receiver, I think it was from Alabama, and he got a penalty. And let me ask you about this one here, Frank. This is high school. You see this hit coming up?
You all.
You know, I'm all about keeping violence in the game. Is it time to go ahead and do the XFL, kick it off there so there's not these violent collisions like that? Because I understand you want that in the game. I don't know anymore, man. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe I'm getting soft. But that in high school, that's a tough dude hitting on a guy that wasn't ready for it. But that could really jack someone up for life.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
No, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, it comes down to physicality. I mean, we've talked about this, is that you can't talk about great football and not use that word. I mean, it's just the way it is. And it's a mindset as well as obviously a physical preparation issue. Obviously, the guy can't do that. Player can't do that unless he's prepared and ready to do it. But you also have to have the mindset to do it. And you put the two together. And, a point that Mark Parsons made a couple of days ago, I think, was that mindset when Don was head coach, the outcome was West Virginia beat teams that probably were more talented. And that's what you have to do.
I love my.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. But no, you're right. And so I just wonder, though, if it's time in high school you don't have to do that. I really don't think you do. And I don't think you have to run it out on a kickoff. I love it.
I agree.
I love it. But here, now this is about Hugh Freeze on Michael Orr dispute with the Tuies. Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely.
All right, here you go.
Michael Orr, he's like part of our family, and I love the Tuies, and I think it's sad, and I certainly don't claim to understand all the ins and outs of adoption, conservatory, all of that, but I know what I witnessed, and I witnessed a family that totally took in a young man, and I think without that, there is no story.
I don't know what's going on. It's none of my business, to be quite honest with you. But what I don't want to see is that to be ruined. I hope they can work it out. Would you agree? I mean,
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. What's striking about that film didn't come out last year. That story is not new. The book is not new, and so here we are a number of years later, and all of a sudden it explodes. Obviously, it's going to have to be adjudicated. The courts will decide what to do. The accusations, I have no idea what the story is, and actually, as we all know, the truth isn't necessarily what drives outcomes often. It's basically what is decided given the known facts. So I don't think it's going to linger all that much longer. And I'm not sure even when it's settled, that'll be the full story. But it really is sad because it captured everybody when that film came out. And now it looks like it's turned upside down.
Exactly. And it's one of my favorite movies. Get it right, everybody. Come together, kumbaya, whatever you got to do. Money, I don't know. Just, I don't want to see it come to that because, again, that was a story, and it was a beautiful story. And I hope it was real. I hope they could work it out. I'll leave it at that. All right. Michigan offensive guard Zach Zinter. Now, this is a pass pro punch here, and it's not just one, it's two. For Michigan, look at this punch. That's Chop Robinson right there. Right? He's coming around, and then look at that. Oh, I love it. That's an offensive lineman. That's an ode to the offensive lineman. That's your punch, man. Right there. And you get there, and you have help, and the guy gets off balance, but That's fun football right there. Now that's fun physicality, and that's different physical.
Receiver coach.
When you got to strike it out, right? So that's kind of cool. What do you think?
Well, I just, that's the thing with Harbaugh. The thought always was that this is going to be the second coming of the old coach, and we're seeing that now with physicality. For a while there, and I hate to say it, when Rich Rod was up there, it didn't look like Schembechler football at all. And it's taken a while for Jim to get that team playing the old style football that put Michigan on the map back in the 70s. And what you just showed is a good example of that.
Yep, that's for sure. And all right, here we go. You're going to love this one.
Yeah.
Receiver coach, you got the quarterback coach, you got the wideout coach, or pardon me, the tight end coach, you got the running back coach, you got the offensive line, right? So you got to tell them all what to do.
What do you guys want to do the next one?
We're going to just say Orlando. Oh, cool. Everyone knows what to do. But there's always coaches be like, hey, why don't you tag HD on there for the running back? Okay, Orlando HD. Hey, you need to tag 53 on there for the offense line. Cool, 53. Hey, will you mind tagging a pivot there for the tight end? Sure. 53 Orlando left HD Y pivot. All right, hey, ride out over there. Could you tell my guy that the F's the one running the Dover? Sure. Cool. 53 Orlando left HD Y pivot F Dover.
Philly 88, dice right, 52 Orlando right HD.
That's sometimes how it goes down, and that's sometimes how language is built big.
Good job.
My goodness.
Good job.
That's how it builds. And
That is.
how do you get that? And you got to study that. And, to me is when Will Greer was releasing the Cowboys, and I always thought, that him giving an opportunity, a fair one, because he's not going to start over Dak Prescott. I mean, the money's there. I mean, they would never allow that. But you could say he could have been second team, and I still think he's going to be a guy that's going to shine a little later in his career. I really do believe that. But I took a lot of heat for that, and I still believe it. And I'll double down on it. But again, the Cowboys' offense was very difficult. That was complex right there. Nick Sirianni of the Eagles, but the Cowboys is even more complex than that. And that's just so tough. To me, I'm like, yo, man, I hear 53 for offensive line, and that's all I worry about. But he's got to worry about everything, the quarterback.
Yeah, no. And I'm trying to remember the second stringer from Central Michigan who came in last year. That was the decision. Do you keep him? Does he have a chance? Does Will have a chance at that second position? But he came in last year, and he did well when Zach was out.
Yep, it sure did. And again, now, this is what I want to show you. This is Georgia defense, cross dog stunt. Well, this is what I want to show everybody, Frank, is, when you're blitzing, anyone can blitz and fill gaps, okay? But the idea is, how do you blitz, all right? And this is what I'm talking about for West Virginia, is you see this here, and you're taking two dudes in one gap. You see the Ohio State A gap, the left A gap of the center, and you got two Georgia guys over those two players. Well, now you're going to add a third to that gap. And what you're doing is you're putting three guys in one gap to use up three guys, because you're going to see the left guard, the center, but then the right guard is going to get involved as well, but you block them off. This is how it's the art of blitzing. It's the art. There's not just straight. You can draw blitzes out of X's and O's all the time. What people don't understand is when these become living and breathing, it's the art. And you can see it. Look at that right there. All right, so you see that they took care. That is putting three guys on one. Charlie McBride, the great defensive coordinator for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and he did that. That was what he used to do. He used to put three guys on the left tackle or the right tackle and blitz three, because they can't. The guard and tackle can't go ahead and do that. So he would go ahead on an obvious passing long downs, put three on the edge and blitz it. And you force the number. Someone's got to come free.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to show is look at this, man. This is cool, but this is the art of blitz. And it takes more than just trying to blitz a gap, as you see. And I think West Virginia could use a little bit more of this and free up some guys. Now, this right here, this is a big offensive lineman. Watch, He's got to be 340, man. Look at him run. that's what Alabama recruits. All right.
Wow.
Look at that can. Like this poor DB, he's got no chance. As an offensive lineman that runs like that, there's no way. Look how quick he moves. Man, that's just not fair. It's not fair. I mean, God didn't give us all the same size and ability, that's for sure.
That is incredible.
Isn't it? I absolutely love it. All right. Now, this is why I put this in here. Right? This is USC. This is the triple option like Pat White used to do, except he used to do what? He used to fake it or give it to Owen Schmidt at the fullback, and then he would run down the line. If he didn't give it to Owen, he would let Owen go through, and then he'd run down the line, or he could pass it to Steve Slayton. Triple option. And it kind of turns almost into the option play. But look at this. This is what I'm saying about not gadgets. Watch USC. This is last week or 2 weeks ago. This is against it, but this is the triple option. But it's a throw. It's the same concept. You can be creative in this. This is what I'm talking about. Be creative right here, and I was going to score a touchdown. But this is no different than Pat White going triple option.
That's right.
And then faking the ball off, and then there you go. You see the running back is out there in the flat. That's what I'm talking about, man.
Touchdown.
That's not a gadget play. That's just going ahead and using a triple option concept and moving the players around. I don't see any of this creativity for WVU, and I want to see it. I mean, you don't have to have gadgets. You just gotta change up your offense a little bit and attack in a little bit different ways.
Yeah.
And have you seen this? And not this play, but anyone, right? You haven't seen that. So again, you understand where I'm coming from here. And I'm not saying I know everything, right? I'm not. But I think you can do things for strength. I love this right here by the offensive lineman. He chops down. Defensive lineman has so much great advantage on an offensive lineman. And when I see an offensive lineman come back, doing the same thing to the defensive lineman, what they do to the offensive lineman, that's a good move right there. Chopping down, that's pretty skilled right there.
Yeah.
And again, these are just stuff that interests me, but I want to get to a couple things here. Oh, there you go, right?
That football.
Man, you never want to see anybody get hurt. But doggone, man, that doesn't get you all jacked up for the weekend. Come up here for the game against the Dukes on Saturday. I don't know what does. What's that, Frank?
No, you're right.
All right. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to end it with this one here. Now, Vince Lombardi, all right? This is what he says about football. This is what I think of football. It's kind of my way of life, my family's way of life. I don't know. You tell me if this makes sense to you.
Football is not just a game, but a way of life. It's a game of courage.
Believe in each other. Trust each other. Pray for each other.
It's a game of sacrifice.
What would you sacrifice to get the win?
It's a game of self-denial.
Pray for your brother, man. Yes, sir. Pray for your brother tonight.
It's a game of dedication.
I need each and every one of you. Give me everything you got today.
And it's a game of love.
I love each and most of you guys.
It's a game of stamina. And it's a game of coordinated efficiency. Each man must contribute to the spirit of the team.
Hey, everybody just do your job. Everybody just do your job right here.
Yeah.
I just think that's really special. And that right there is what football's all about. And leading us off into this weekend, leading us off to going and playing and going against Duquesne Dukes, I think that's pretty special. It's courage, it's teammates, it's love, it's sacrifice. It's all that he said there. And he said that 50 years ago plus. 50 years ago plus, and it still is the same today. Is it not?
It hasn't changed.
No, absolutely. All right. Well, that was my film for the week. The stuff that
Oh,
interests.
great stuff.
Yeah, I love it. And let me see here. Do we have anything? I don't see anything here. I just see. All right. Hey, thank you, Timothy. You can hear my voice. I've been scratchy the last 2 days here, but I still keep trucking, man, because that's what I do. All right, Frank, tell us about your event that's coming up with the boys then and now.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We'll be back in West Virginia, a number of us. I'm in Michigan right now, but we've got a big to do up in the northern panhandle in Moundsville on Thursday, starting at 12, going until 5 at the Co-op. And it's on 11th Street, co-sponsored by the Co-op and the Chamber of Commerce in Marshall County. And we're excited about that. And we're going to be at Barnes & Noble on Friday night at 5:30 for a book signing. And we'll be signing books up in Moundsville too. The WVU mascot will be up in Moundsville for that event. And you can see it at the sports column. There's an article up with all the information. It's on Facebook. And so we're excited about the Band of Brothers then and now, Thursday in Moundsville and on Friday in Morgantown.
All right. Well, I know that they're all coming in, not all of them, but many are coming in the Band of Brothers. How's your book doing, man? How's it going?
I think it's going well because of the nature of the book selling situation. I won't get a full set of numbers until probably about the 10th of October, but we've been very, very pleased with the sales so far and the interest in, I hate to say a time gone by. In some ways it is, but as you said, it's the same game. And I'll tell you one thing, and I can say this, and this is one of the most, for me, the best thing about the whole endeavor. To see those guys in the spotlight again, having an opportunity to take a bow is one of the major reasons, if not the major reason I wrote the book. And as you always say, we stand on the shoulder of others, and that keeps on going forever, never ends. And so we got to pay homage to those guys.
Well, that's for sure. Frank, I want to thank you, man. Is there anything else you want to add to the cause for the week?
Oh.
Anything you want to say about Duquesne? Anything you want to say about Let's Go Mountaineers? What do you want to say, brother?
Let's do it. Always a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on, and we'll see you Monday.
Yeah, I enjoy this time here that we had, and we'll see you. All right, big dog. Let's go Mountaineers. Let's win. See you now.
Bye-bye.
All right, goodbye, bud. All right, Frank Fair, boy, I'll tell you what, he's as smart as Tony. I have, I got to have a lot of confidence and some cojones, I think, to bring on people that are smarter than I am. I think there's a lot to be said for that. Yeah, I just said that. Never mind. Don't worry about it. Let me see. Go ahead and put this up here. And let's start it off at Archies up there in Pittsburgh. What's up? Archies, the heart of the evil empire. And then, of course, we got Route 22 Sports Bar, Weirton, West Virginia. Man, love the 12 15-inch TVs, bottoms-up draft system. And then you head down to Beckley, West Virginia, Calacino's, Pizzeria and Sports Bar. Yeah, what's up there, the Weeks people? Then what about this Hinton, West Virginia? Cantrell's River City Grill and Pub, right on the river. And then you go out to Cheat Lake, and you got Aaron Gizzy out there, Legends Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, Giz? How are you, buddy? Hope everything's going well for you, man. And you got Danny's down there in Princeton, West Virginia. Again, I'm just trying to keep this. We're covering the state. I don't want to overkill it, though. Don't want to overkill it, but I think we're going to have to keep growing here. And we're back up to Morgantown, Kegler Sports Bar and Grill. You have Jerry Lorenz, Steve Lorenz, Craig Lorenz, Dougie Moore, and then you have the Mason Jar Saloon and Hot Spot in Morgantown as well. And you have Melder at the Mountaineer Tab House in Morgantown. So we got those three. And then you have Jimbo's up there at Elkins and Jimbo's in Buckhannon. So nice they did it twice. Yeah, Jimmy, I see you, buddy. And then you got the Pallet Bar where we did the pregame last week. Awesome. All the great drafts that they have there. Great people. Haley, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Then you have the Mason Jar Barbecue and more in Fairmont, West Virginia. And, I'm buttoning those britches. Steve Reese. Yeah, all right, buddy. And then you got the Pitch Sports Bar and Grill and then Brickside Bar and Grille in Bridgeport, and the pitcher courses in Dunbar. All those fields there, I thought it was just a really cool place. Don't forget about tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to give you a breakdown of Duquesne, give you the WolfMan's breakdown. Got some film. I don't know how much film I want to use because it's from last year. It's against Florida State. For the future, it will be good. But we're going to come at 4 o'clock again tomorrow, and I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to tell you exactly what they need to do. Although I probably told you some things here that you already picked up on that they need to do. But I don't care. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to keep telling you until this team, is being used. What I think is its best opportunity to win. I'm really tired of watching the struggle for Mountaineers. I'm really tired. I want to see this team. I've invested in this team. I've done a lot for this team. Others have done more than I have. All right. Others have played hard. Others have invested hard. Others have done. Everybody's done so much that right now as this team, it's on you. This is your opportunity. And I'm behind you. Neil Brown, I'm behind you. Go ahead, man. Take it to it. But you got to fix some things, man, that you talked about it. So let's see you get it fixed and get it done because it's time. It's just time. And I think everybody that's watching is waiting for that, man. And I got to tell you something else, brother. When you get pissed off and you get angry and, you get fired up, that's good. I'm telling you, I think it's really good. It's really good. And I think you're a lot more effective when you go ahead and you do that and you tell people exactly what's going on and where it's going on and what time it is and what time they need to be there, what time, all that stuff. I really believe that's when you are there. And when you sit there and say, I'm going to go down and swing my own way or I'm going to make it. Well, it's time. It's time. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Oh, we're also going to be having cover 2 data. Come in and give us data about the game last week. And, data going against one game against FCS. He's going to tell us about the top 25 and all things like that. So, all right, I'm going to get off here, man. And I'm going to go ahead and put, my guy on there, Zach Frazier, who I think and I know is the best center in the nation. And let's say this, all right? Wyatt Milo, man, kudos to you for spraining your ankle in a big game in the first series and coming back and still playing efficiently and hard. And kudos to my guy, Nick Malone, for coming in there and playing tight end. And I saw you there. You did some really good stuff at tight end and then playing tackle, scoring that touchdown. Kudos to you. I'm proud of you, man. And then go Doug Nestor, man. Doing good at right tackle. Strong. You're a beast, man. Keep leading this team. Zach Frazier, you have Brandon Yates. Love your enthusiasm. Love your enthusiasm. Keep it going, man. You played with some fire in you, man. You had some fire in your belly there. And you put it in your can, and you came off and you railed some Penn State dudes. You railed them. I saw it. And then, of course, you got Thomas Reebok. All right. All big 6'6", young buck, but he's growing. He's the best. That's why that offensive line is coming in. Traylon Davis at tight end and Cole Taylor at tight end. Again, Nick Malone. All right. You did some good stuff in the run game, and you proved that you wouldn't back down to anybody. So keep it going. I want to see, and I'm going to get this tomorrow, and I'm just going to get out of here, but I want to see you take over the game. This is your game. This is your time. This is your team. Doug Nestor, Zach Frazier, all right? This is your last go-round. Take over this, and who cares what CJ does? He's going to run behind you, right? But who cares? Just take over this game and say, it doesn't matter what you do, Dukes, because you're going to get duked by the Mountaineers. And I say that in all good. I say it with much love. Much love to my young brothers, to all of them, offensively, defensively, special teams. All right, let's go, baby. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. When you sit there and say, I'm out here and I'm being negative. I'm not being negative. I'm being constructive criticism because I'm tired of watching the Mountaineers underachieve when I think that they can achieve. I think they can achieve, but you got to go ahead and you got to do things to achieve. Let's see it this weekend. It's a perfect start. Let's go, Mountaineers. 4 o'clock tomorrow, cover 2 data. Wolfman breakdown. What's up, ZF?
Hi, I'm Zach Frazier from Fairmont, and when I'm back home, you'll find me at my local Parmar store.
We have that gold and blue pride at your local Parmar store. We are coming to your neighborhood soon. West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Maryland, we have you covered. Download the Parmar app and sign up for the Parmar Rewards Card. Food, gas, groceries, and more, we are gold and blue proud, and we are Parmar stores.
If there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon.
Buzzballs, ready-to-drink cocktails. #1 single-serve premix brand in the U.S. Buzzballs, have a ball. Stationers, #1 office supplier in West Virginia. Always in stock. How many? The anywhere, anytime chargers, powering a connected world. Never buy AA batteries again. Rechargeable 500 times plus. Paul Mini AA USB lithium battery, as easy to charge as your cell phone. Sustainable energy, stay charged. Go green, save green. Feel the power of Paul. Order now at paulmini.com.
West Virginia United.